Hello, it's Ellie here. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you a quick update on our Mountain Birch Project. So this is a project that we kicked off in March last year, and the aim of this project is to collect seed from remnant populations of mountain birch that can then be mapped and recorded with the seed collected each year, so that we can really get this going in the nurseries and provide the seed source that's required to really kick off restoration for this missing habitat in Scotland. So our partner Gus, who works with Reforesting Scotland, has been out and about collecting seed, and he's very kindly collected some footage to show you what he's been up to.
Some of you might recognise this spot from a video on the main Mossy channel. My video last year with Rob. Quite a dramatic little bit of geomorphology here, and then we're about halfway through it. Go through there as well. But yeah, we're kind of 450 metres at the moment. So we've got another 150, 160, 170 to go, I think, until we're at our birches for today. I'm hoping, since all the other sites have been really good this year compared to previous years, I'm hoping this year is going to be a good year at this site. Apparently the germination rates of these collected last year were not very good, apparently, so yeah, hopefully if there's more seed this year then we'll get better germination, or at least have more trees at the end of it. So better continue watching where I'm stepping. As you can see down there, it's the sort of edge of the forest there. There is actually a pine all the way up here as well, but most people think this is as high as woodland's going to get in Scotland, but it's really very low. And to be completely honest, everything up here would be covered in some kind of open woodland of some sort. It won't be dense, continuous canopy, but yeah, some kind of open piney woodland. Obviously that's all bogs, that probably wouldn't forest over it, but these steeper slopes, dry free draining soil. Up here would probably be patchy, so that's kind of what we're looking to restore through collecting these seeds, and then hopefully some places will be able to establish a seed source for future colonisation of these upland areas by birches, because there's really very little seed source. You'll be able to see down there, there's a heap of pine, there's loads and loads of pine, and up here there is pine regeneration, as you'll see on this slope, but there's hardly any birch. So if we can collect as much of this birch seed as possible, get it grown on, and then plant some out so that there's actually a seed source for yeah, birch to spread into our Montane woodlands. Not very good contrast there, but you can see that pass there is the Larry Grew, which passes through into Aberdeenshire from sort of Speyside, which is where I am at the moment. Most of the trees that I visited, well, all the trees I visited with Rob are down here in that direction. However, I remember previous years I found this one, and I didn't think it was old enough to have, oh man, what a tree. I didn't think it was old enough to have seed on it, but it is absolutely covered. Totally covered in seed. You can see how small it is compared to Curated there. But yeah, look at that. Absolutely covered in seed. So I'll definitely be collecting from here. But yeah, that tree kind of shows the growth form that they often have to take in order to grow at these higher altitudes, and the sort of niches they have to exploit, especially up here since there's no other trees providing cover. You know, maybe once that pine is this big, a pine will be able to grow next to it, or a birch grow next to it. Prevailing wind comes from this direction. If that tree is, you know, I don't know, 2 meters high, according to one paper, it will reduce wind speeds by, I think, half, 3 times that distance away. So 6 meters away from that tree, it will have reduced the wind speeds, which means that it will be so much easier for another tree to grow here. These trees will also be setting up the mycorrhizal associations, which we're beginning to understand quite how important those are to woodland establishment, particularly at these higher altitudes where the trees are really up against it. But yeah, so this tree has obviously gone well. This is all a bit open. I'll find some shelter in amongst these rocks. And yeah, it's kind of half drowned to be honest, but it's still perfectly alive. Wow, look at it going against that rock. Amazing. Amazing twisty thing. Anyway, we better go collect some seeds, Kulan. How does that sound? Here's my technique. I don't know how everybody else does it, but I tend to go one-handed. Pick a bunch, and then bag's usually in my other hand. Obviously I'm filming at the moment, so it's down there. And we've got a little sample, like leaf sample for DNA purposes. Hopefully somebody can tell us exactly what's going on genetically with these trees and maybe what makes them capable of growing at higher altitude. But we will see. I mean, I've got a lot of little catkins to be picking here, so yeah, good start to the day, definitely. Most of these are still quite green, which you can still pick them when they're like this, but some of them are starting to dehiss, which is when they kind of disintegrate and then let all their seed away, which is what that one's just done. You see, yeah, they're a lot easier to pick then because you just kind of do that and it all comes off and you stick it in. But anyway, I better continue picking. More picking, less talking. This tree up behind me here is a pretty good example of the sort of growth form that we often expect from these higher altitude birches. Try and get a bit closer for you. Yeah, it's pretty typical. The main thing being that it's polycormic, which means multi-stemmed. You can see lots of little stems. It's not one stem coming up like your classic tree that you draw when you're in primary school. It's very multi-stemmed. Nobody's totally sure why they do that, but that is like a feature of ones in Norway and also in Iceland, and you know, basically more montane environments. So yeah, it looks good. It's at about 630 meters. It's pretty high up, and it's got loads of catkins on it, so again, happy days. Yeah, these trees, this little sort of bunch here, I'll show you the rest of them. So I think we've got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 in there, and then we've got another, I think 2 or 3 there, but they're all pretty multi-stemmed. It could be that when they're at an early age they get quite a lot of exposure and maybe the frost gets them, which kind of causes them to grow multi-stemmed, or it could be insects at an early stage in life, or it could just be that they naturally decide that this is a better way to grow just because they're in such exposed locations. Quite sure last year for this tree I was stood on this rock in the video, balancing on it precariously in order to reach 1 or 2 catkins up there. This year you're absolutely smothered in catkins. They're everywhere, and they're at the perfect time in their kind of cycle for me just to be able to kind of go like that, and then they come apart in your hand and pretty much ready, because ready as ready gets. But yeah, there's actually so many here, but I'm definitely not going to have enough room in my bag for all of them, because that's what we're up to so far. That's the fullest bag I've collected ever, so it's going pretty well. But obviously we don't want to collect all of them, because I mean, what's ideal is if these trees can just regenerate and spread from here. The habitat's already here, a lot of the associated species are already here, and obviously they're producing heaps of seed some years, not so many in other years, but yeah, this year heaps of seed. You can perhaps see, like the tree I showed you right at the start of the day, that first one, it was sort of wedged in amongst the rocks. That's probably what these trees started out as. Yeah, you can see a big, whoa! Oh, see this big boulder here, and this has probably offered some protection from the winds that typically come from the south. Same for this one and the third one back there. And then for whatever reason they eventually put on enough growth to be able to shoot up above the height of the shelter. But they're probably sheltering each other in a way. And it's the same there. That's kind of a strip of trees. There's 1, 2 birch and then a Scots pine. So it's yeah, and the boulders probably offer some sort of respite from the hungry mouths of all the deer as well. Deer are less likely to come tramping through all of these big boulders. So it offers the birches a bit of a chance to get a foothold. I'm glad they did, because it gives me something to collect seed from. Anyway, I'm down, oh there's a guy down there. Down onto this one now, and then I'll get those ones over there. I think I've collected my last bit of seed from this particular stand of birches here. There's one other birch I'd like to check on the way out, which is the highest, I think the highest altitude birch I've ever visited. I think it's about 720 meters, so we'll go and see if that has any seed on it. But yeah, so this site, I think it's 12 trees in total, if I've counted correctly. Also found maybe 3 saplings and 2 seedlings. Collected seed from 8 of these, plus that one that was over there at the start. So there's, yeah, 3 here that I haven't collected seed from, just because they're, well, hardly any seed on one of them, and the other 2, there's not much seed, and what seed there was is very high up. I couldn't reach it. So yeah, I just headed down to the alt, as we call them in Scotland, and in Gaelic alt is like a burn, as we call it in Scots. Sorry, we've got alt, which is Gaelic, for burn, which is Scots, which means stream, if that makes sense. So this is the Alt Drury. I don't know what that means in Gaelic, but maybe I'll find that out for you. So yeah, just making our way over all of this scree, and then we'll go and check out our final birch of the day. I love this tree, absolutely love it. It's been sort of painted across the hillside by the wind, which comes from that direction most of the time, southwesterly prevailing wind here. Oh, it's just such an amazing survivor. Like, oh, and everything about it is just amazing. Oh, I don't know where to begin, but I mean the bark, absolutely beautiful, like the white and then fading into these kind of reds and oranges, sort of twisted nature of a lot of the lower branches. Oh, it's just stunning. And even more stunning in that it's absolutely covered in catkins, where last year I had 1.5 catkins on this tree, but there's hundreds on it this year. Bit of a novelty around here is that there's a herd of reindeer. I don't know if you'll be able to see them on this shot, but dogs certainly seen them. Hey, stay. They're pretty tame apparently, but there they go. Weird. Not native here, in case anyone's wondering. It's just sort of tourism stuff, really. Yeah, funny. Hey dog, you'd get them, wouldn't you? Good morning from our office. I just thought I'd film a very quick update before I head off and deliver a bunch of this seed, which has been taking up our spare bed. As you can see, we've got plenty of it, certainly. Loads and loads. I think I've collected from, pretty sure, 5 sites this year. 5 or 6 actually. And then I'm quite sure it's about 5-ish other sites that have been collected by other folk elsewhere in the country. So yeah, about roughly 10 sites collected from, which is really good. It's better than last year. The other good thing is that this year we have, well, I personally have collected just under 10 times the amount of seed that I collected last year. So I've weighed every bag. It's very rough though, because for example, that bag, you can see the seed is all very dry and just kind of, yeah, disintegrated. Whereas if you go into this bag, the seed's still a bit damp and there's still green catkins. It's all still, you know, together. If that makes sense. It's not kind of dried out as much. So the weighing's not a very, it's not a very precise way of doing it, but it gives us a rough estimate. So I've collected almost a kilogram of seed, although obviously some of that will be water weight. But yeah, pretty chuffed with it. So what I'm gonna do is split these bags, some of them anyway. I'm gonna split some of them in two. So half of it will go to Cairngorms Connect, who are down in the Cairngorms, obviously, which is a big landscape scale restoration project. And then the other half will go to Forest Research, who will take what they need from it, and they're going to set up a sort of trial, which hopefully somebody will do a PhD with all of that, and then they'll send whatever they don't use down onto Elsom's Trees, who will take the rest of the seed and grow that on for restoration projects all over the place. And then there's other ones which will just be going straight to Forest Research. They'll take their bit and then that will get sent on. I also have here, let's see if I can find the right one. It doesn't really matter, does it? But I have some stuff that is collected, from lower ground. So this is only from 358 meters. This is for the trial that Forest Research are doing, so that they have some comparative material from lower ground birches, so that they can compare, basically compare them in all sorts of ways. So all very exciting, but I better get to the delicate task of trying to divide this up. Yeah, we've also got leaf material from each tree, which will be used for genetic analysis, so that we can work out exactly what they are, because telling what they are from just looking at them can be a bit tricky, especially because we only have two birch trees really in Scotland, silver birch and downy birch, and the characteristics are they're very specific to identify them. So if we can get genetic analysis done of them, that's perfect. And it might also tell us why some trees might be more capable of growing at higher altitude than other ones. So yeah, really excited to be sending all this seed off. It's gonna be really interesting seeing what happens with it all, and seeing the results. Some of it going straight into restoration, and then some of it going into trials to inform further restoration. So yeah, all really exciting. I better go and deliver this anyway. Yeah, right. Cheerio.